The silent arrival. The night sky above Earth was quiet, calm, and filled with stars. To the people of Earth, nothing seemed unusual that evening. Cities glowed with their normal lights. Oceans reflected the moon. Forests swayed under cold winds. But far above the atmosphere, hidden in the blackness of space, something enormous was moving. A fleet of alien ships had arrived. They came without sound, without light, only their dark shadows gliding across the heavens. These ships were not small crafts. They were giants, floating fortresses made of steel and fire. Their commanders had crossed thousands of light years to reach this single blue planet. For them, Earth was not a mystery, it was a target. The Galactic Council had long believed Earth to be weak, a small world at the edge of space. To them it was nothing but a future colony. And so their armies came with confidence, expecting easy victory, but from the moment their first scouts entered orbit, something began to feel wrong. One ship reported strange signals from Earth's surface, low vibrations in the oceans, whispers across the forests, pulses in the deserts. They believed these were only primitive human communications, yet when they tried to decode them, their systems froze, screens filled with static, and engineers felt an unease they could not explain. "Planet noise," the commander said coldly. "Ignore it." The first wave of ships descended lower, passing through thick clouds. They expected to see human defenses scrambling, jets flying, rockets launching. But the cities below remained silent. Streets glowed with lights, but no movement came. No soldiers, no alarms, not even panic. It was as if the humans already knew the invasion was coming. The alien fleet hovered above one of Earth's great cities. Buildings rose tall, but the windows were dark. Roads were empty. Parks lay still. To the alien eyes, it looked abandoned. Their scanners confirmed life signs inside, but none of the humans came out. Troops were ordered down. The 1st Battalion entered the city with heavy armor and advanced weapons. Their boots echoed on empty streets. The air was still, heavy with dust. They searched every building, every home. Nothing. No sound of voices, no sound of machines, only silence so deep it made even the strongest soldier feel uneasy. Back on the command ship, the alien general grew impatient. "Humans are hiding," he said. "Find them. Flush them out." But hours passed, and the soldiers sent into the city never returned. Their communication links cut off one by one. No gunfire was heard, no cries for help, just silence. On the fleet's main screen, a live feed from a drone flickered for a moment. The camera showed soldiers entering a subway tunnel beneath the city. Darkness swallowed them. A shadow passed quickly across the screen. Then static. The feed died. The alien commanders stared at the empty monitor. "What is happening down there?" one demanded. No one could answer. The 2nd Battalion was ordered in. But they too vanished without a trace. It was then that fear began to grow among the invaders. These were not simple humans running away. Something else was happening, something hidden in the shadows of this planet. Scouts sent to the forest reported strange shapes moving between the trees. Hunters disappeared into the fog of the mountains. Desert patrols found entire ruins carved with symbols no one could read. Everywhere they went, silence followed. The alien soldiers whispered to each other. "It is as if the planet itself is watching us." Back on the flagship, the general dismissed these fears. He stood tall before his crew and declared, "Earth is only a world. Its people are only flesh. Nothing more. We will crush them." But his words felt empty. Because outside the ship, the planet looked different now. The oceans below rippled unnaturally. The forest seemed to move even without wind. Thunderstorms appeared suddenly, striking only near alien crafts. It was as if the planet itself was alive. The fleet sent one last scout to test the truth. A single ship, small and fast, was ordered to descend deep into Earth's atmosphere. Its mission was simple: capture a human alive. The ship flew low across a ruined highway. Broken cars lay rusted, grass growing over their frames. Houses stood empty, their windows black. The ship hovered, scanning for life. And then they saw him. A man stood alone in the middle of the road. His clothes were torn, his face covered with dirt, yet his eyes were calm. Too calm. The alien pilot ordered his capture. Troops descended, surrounding the man. They raised their weapons, but the human did not run. He simply stared at them with a faint, unsettling smile. When they demanded answers, he spoke slowly, in a voice that carried no fear. "You should not have come here." The soldiers pressed him for more. He looked around at the empty city, then back at them. "This planet remembers," he whispered, "and it never forgives." Before the aliens could react, the ground beneath them trembled. A deep rumble echoed across the ruins. Lights flickered in the buildings. The air grew heavy, almost alive. The soldiers shouted, weapons ready, but in that instant, the human vanished into the shadows, as if the city itself had swallowed him. On the flagship, the report came back. The mission failed. Another battalion lost. Another human escaped. Silence returned. And then in the command chamber, one voice broke the tension. A junior officer, pale and shaking, whispered what no one else dared to say. "This planet is alive, and it does not want us here." The words hung heavy in the air. The general turned sharply, his face pale for the first time. Outside the windows, the earth glowed in the darkness of space, silent, patient, waiting. The vanishing armies. The alien general refused to admit fear. He had commanded battles on 100 worlds. He had conquered planets far greater than Earth. To him, this was just another campaign. Yet deep in his mind, the silence of this world began to eat at him. The first battalions had already vanished. Soldiers armed with the finest weapons, wearing armor that no primitive human could pierce, had walked into Earth's cities and never returned. Their signals cut off without warning. No cries, no explosions, only silence. Now, the general gathered his officers. "We will not be shamed by this world," he declared. His voice was strong, but his eyes betrayed doubt. "Send more troops. Sweep every street. Burn every building if you must. I want answers." The second wave was larger. Dozens of carriers descended from the fleet, filling the skies over Earth with shadows. Cities across the continents felt the weight of alien presence. Troops marched in perfect lines. Machines the size of towers rolled across highways. Drones filled the skies, buzzing like angry insects. And yet, there was still no resistance. Humans did not attack. Humans did not even appear. Streets were empty. Schools, hospitals, markets, all abandoned. The entire planet seemed to be hiding underground. The soldiers pushed deeper. In one city, a squad entered a hospital. Beds were still warm, as if people had only just left. Food lay on plates in the cafeteria. Lights flickered in hallways. But not a single human remained. The soldiers moved from room to room. Their voices echoed against the walls. One soldier touched the wall and frowned. "It feels alive." His commander snapped at him. "Stop your nonsense." Moments later, that same squad signal disappeared. Elsewhere, in the forests of the north, alien patrols pushed through endless trees. Their scanners showed movement all around, but the screens flickered with static. Shapes appeared and vanished, shadows darting between the trunks. The air grew heavy. The sound of footsteps echoed, though none of the aliens moved. One soldier raised his rifle and shouted into the fog, "Show yourself!" The only answer was a low whisper, carried by the wind. "You should not be here." Then silence. The patrol never reported again. In the deserts under the burning sun, another group searched the ruins of old towns. They found strange markings carved into stone walls, symbols that were neither human nor alien. Their translators could not decode them. One of the officers stared too long at the carvings and suddenly screamed. He tore off his helmet and clawed at his own eyes, shouting about shapes in the sand. His squad tried to restrain him, but the ground beneath them shook violently. Dust rose, covering the sun. When command tried to reach them, there was no reply. Another battalion lost. On the flagship, tension grew. Reports came in faster than the generals could read them. Patrol vanished. No survivors. Signal lost. It was the same everywhere. Thousands of soldiers all gone. The general slammed his fist against the table. This is impossible. Humans are weak. This is trickery. But even as he spoke, his officers avoided his eyes. They too had seen the reports. They too had heard the whispers. Something was devouring their armies, and it was not human weapons. Then came the most chilling transmission yet. A drone had been circling above a ruined city. Its camera recorded a street filled with alien soldiers. The soldiers marched forward, weapons raised. But then, without warning, they froze. Not a sound, not a movement. One by one, their bodies collapsed onto the ground. No blast, no gunfire, just lifeless silence. The drone hovered, scanning, but then the camera caught something in the corner of the street. A figure. It was a child, a human child, standing barefoot in the dust, staring up at the drone with dark, hollow eyes. The child raised a hand slowly, and the drone's feed cut to black. When the recording ended, the command room was silent. "Children," whispered one officer. "Even children of this world can destroy us." The general shouted at him, calling it madness, but fear had already spread among the crew. Still, the general pressed forward. He ordered an interrogation. Somewhere on Earth, one of their squads had managed to capture a human alive. He was dragged onto the flagship, an old man, thin and pale with eyes sharp as knives. The general demanded answers. "What are you? Where are your armies? How are you killing us?" The old man only laughed. His voice was rough but steady. "You came here thinking we were prey," he said. "But Earth does not forget. Every war, every death, every tear, this planet remembers. And when you touch it, it remembers you too." The general snarled. "Speak sense, old one." The human leaned closer, his face only inches from the commander's. His whisper was cold, but every officer in the room heard it as if it were spoken directly in their ear. "Earth does not need us to fight. Earth itself is the weapon." Before the soldiers could strike him down, the old man's body crumbled into dust. His clothes fell empty onto the floor. There was nothing left. The officers recoiled in horror. The room was filled with whispers now, not from the humans, but from the walls of the ship itself. The general shouted, "Shut it out, block the noise." But no technology could stop the sound. A single message carried through the static, clear and chilling. "Leave this place, or vanish as all the others have." The general fell silent. His armies were gone, his fleet was trapped, and Earth itself had spoken. The unseen enemy, the alien fleet, hung above Earth like dark vultures. Their ships circled the planet, waiting for new orders, but no one spoke. Inside the command chambers, the once confident generals sat in silence. The loss of thousands of soldiers still echoed in their minds. They had expected a weak enemy. Instead, they had found something else, something unseen, something impossible to fight. The general stood at the center of the chamber. His voice was hard, but his tone carried cracks. "We cannot lose control. Earth is not magic. There is an answer. There must be." To prove his words, he ordered deep scans of the planet. Rubber ships unleashed powerful waves across the atmosphere, digging beneath the oceans, into the mountains, and through the soil of the continents. What they found made even the most experienced officers draw breath. Beneath the surface of Earth lay more than just tunnels and caves. There were entire networks, hidden structures, stretching for miles. Old bunkers, strange fortresses, ruins from wars long forgotten. Some were clearly human, built in ancient times, but others were not. One officer turned pale as he studied the images. "These structures predate human history," he whispered. "They were here long before humans. This planet has been at war for ages." The general clenched his fists. "Nonsense, this is old rock, nothing more." But he could not ignore what came next. Strange symbols were discovered etched into the stone walls of underground caverns. Patterns repeated across continents, as if the entire world was covered in a single endless script. The symbols glowed faintly, reacting to the alien scanners. One ship's sensors overloaded and burst into flames. The crew backed away, their faces pale. "It is a warning," one of them said. "This planet carries memory in its bones." Meanwhile, soldiers still trapped on Earth sent their last reports. From one forest came the sound of screams cut short, followed by whispers repeating their names. In the desert, soldiers described shadows that moved against the sun, shapes that were not human, yet carried human voices. And in the ruins of an ancient city, a squad stumbled upon walls painted with red handprints. They were fresh, wet with blood, though no humans had been seen for days. The handprints multiplied before their eyes, crawling across the walls like living things. The squad fired their weapons in panic, but the walls swallowed the bullets, as if the planet itself had eaten the attack. Then the transmission ended. Another squad lost. The general demanded answers, but no one had them. Finally, an elder scientist, one of the oldest minds of their species, spoke quietly. "We came here to fight humans," he said. "But we are not fighting them. We are fighting their history. Every war they have ever fought, every weapon they have ever built, every death they have ever suffered. It is all alive here. This planet is not just soil and water. It remembers. It defends itself." The officers shivered at his words, but still the general refused. His pride was too heavy, his empire's eyes too sharp upon him. He ordered a test. "Bring me one of their symbols," he demanded. "If this planet hides power, we will use it." A squad was sent underground to carve a piece of the glowing stone. The mission seemed simple. The squad entered the cavern, their lights sweeping across ancient walls. They cut into the rock and the glowing script dimmed for a moment. Then the cavern shook. The stone cracked apart, and a sound erupted that no living ear should hear, a roar of millions of voices screaming as one. The cavern collapsed, burying the squad alive. The surviving feed showed them clawing at the rubble, but it was not stone that held them down. It was something moving, something made of shadow and memory. Their screams were cut short, and the feed ended. The scientists begged the general to stop. "You cannot cut into the bones of this world, it fights back." But the general's pride burned hotter. "We will not be defeated by ghosts," he spat. Even as he spoke, more reports came in. Ships in low orbit were vanishing, swallowed by sudden storms that appeared from nowhere. Lightning struck with precision, hitting only alien crafts while leaving human lands untouched. One officer whispered, "It is as if the planet itself chooses who may live." The fear spread through the fleet like fire. Soldiers no longer wanted to fight. They avoided the windows of their ships, afraid to look down at the blue planet below. But then came the final proof, the proof that even the general could not deny. A lone soldier was found drifting in space, his suit damaged, his body broken. He was brought aboard, and before he died, he spoke with trembling lips. "They are not alone," he gasped. "Humans are not alone. This planet has allies, old ones we cannot see." His eyes rolled back and he was gone. Silence filled the chamber. The general stared at the earth, his jaw tight. He had come expecting victory. Instead, he found himself at war with an enemy that had no face, no body, only memory and wrath. For the first time, he whispered words his officers never expected to hear. "We may not survive this." Outside, Earth turned slowly, glowing in the sunlight. The unseen enemy waited. Earth's wrath-dark clouds gathered above the planet. From the alien fleet, Earth no longer looked like the gentle blue world they had first seen. It looked different now, angry, alive, almost waiting. Storms rose across oceans, lightning spread across continents, and winds howled like voices calling from the past. Inside the flagship, fear had become a shadow on every soldier's face. No one spoke loudly anymore. The whispers of the planet had followed them even into space. The general stood tall, trying to hold his army together, but his eyes betrayed the weight of his doubt. "We still control the skies," he said. "Our weapons are unmatched. Earth cannot resist forever. But even as he spoke, alarms screamed across the fleet. On the main screen, one of their warships shook violently. Its lights flickered, engines died, and then, without warning, the ship dropped from orbit. It fell through the clouds and crashed into the ocean below. Waves rose like mountains, swallowing the wreckage in seconds. No survivors. The fleet was silent. The general shouted orders. "Stabilize positions, fire at the planet." Obediently, several ships opened fire. Massive beams of energy shot down into Earth's surface, tearing through forests and mountains. Explosions lit the horizon. For a moment it seemed the planet would burn. But then, the Earth responded. The skies opened, releasing storms so violent that even the alien ships struggled to hold position. Hurricanes appeared where none should exist. Tornadoes ripped across battlefields. Earthquakes shattered the ground beneath alien troops, swallowing entire battalions into darkness. And lightning, unnatural lightning, struck from the clouds with precision, always hitting alien machines, never human shelters. It was as if the world itself was choosing its targets. On the ground, the silence of the cities ended. From hidden shelters, from underground tunnels, humans rose. They were not weak villagers running for safety. They were survivors, hardened by centuries of war. They carried weapons both old and new, guns forged from Earth's steel and strange devices stolen from past invaders. They did not march in straight lines like the aliens. They struck from shadows. They trapped enemy machines in narrow streets. They used the ruins of their own cities as weapons. One alien squad marched proudly down an empty avenue. Suddenly, the road beneath them exploded. Hidden charges destroyed their formation. From windows above, humans rained fire on them. Within seconds, the proud squad was nothing but smoke and ash. In the forests, hunters moved silently, cutting down patrols one by one. In the deserts, human snipers waited for hours, striking at the exact moment that caused maximum fear. The aliens had come with numbers, but humans had come with patience. Every move was calculated. Every strike was a message, and the message was clear: Earth will never kneel. Back on the flagship, the general watched in horror. His armies were crumbling. His ships were falling. The humans were not just resisting, they were winning. "Impossible," he whispered. "They should not be capable of this." Then a scientist turned to him with pale eyes. "General, do you not see? The planet is fighting with them. Every storm, every quake, it protects them. We are not at war with only humans. We are at war with Earth itself." The general slammed his fist against the console. "We will not lose to rocks and storms." But even his voice shook. More alarms screamed. Another ship fell from the skies, torn apart by a storm. Drones that tried to fly above the clouds were ripped apart by lightning. Machines on the ground froze as sand and roots swallowed them whole. And still the humans advanced. In one city, a young human woman led her people through underground tunnels. They emerged behind an alien tank and destroyed it with stolen alien tech. In the mountains, old men who had fought wars decades ago lifted rifles once more, standing beside children who had never seen peace. The aliens began to understand. Humanity was not just one generation. Humanity was an endless chain of survivors, each stronger than the last. Every death had taught them how to fight. Every war had left them sharper. Now all of history had risen together. The general stood frozen, his mind shaking. He remembered the words of the old man who had turned to dust. Earth itself is the weapon. And now he finally believed, for across the fleet a voice echoed. It was not a human voice. It was deep, vast, and heavy, like the sound of mountains moving. "Leave." The command chamber shook as if the voice was inside the ship itself. Officers fell to their knees, their faces pale. Soldiers covered their ears, but the sound came from within their bones. The general shouted, "No, we will not." Before he could finish, another quake hit the planet. This time it sent shockwaves into orbit. Several ships lost control, colliding with each other, burning in the skies above Earth. The flames rained down, lighting the night. For the first time in their empire's history, the invincible fleet looked weak. The general's pride shattered. He gripped the edge of the table, his eyes fixed on the planet below. It was no longer just a world. It was a living, breathing enemy, and Earth's wrath had only begun. The terrifying truth: the alien fleet was breaking. Where once hundreds of warships had circled Earth with pride, now only a few burned engines kept them afloat. Many had fallen into oceans, others had collided in firestorms above the clouds, and the rest drifted powerless, crippled by the planet's fury. Inside the flagship, the general stood in silence. His face was pale, his hands trembling though he tried to hide it. All his soldiers avoided his eyes. They knew the truth, he still refused to speak. They had lost, but this was not an ordinary defeat. This was something far worse. The general's voice cracked when he finally spoke. "Send a message. To the council. They must know what happened here." The officers obeyed. A transmission beam cut through space carrying the final words of an empire that once believed itself invincible. Earth cannot be taken. Every army vanishes. Every fleet burns. This planet is not prey. It is the grave of conquerors. Static swallowed the message. And then, something even stranger happened. Across every remaining ship, screens lit up without command. Monitors flickered. Static shifted into images. At first, the aliens thought it was interference. But then they realized the planet itself was showing them something. On the screens appeared endless scenes of war. Humans battling humans in ancient fields with swords and shields. Humans fighting with fire and gunpowder in smoky cities, tanks rolling across mud, skies filled with planes, oceans roaring with submarines. Battles of the past, millions of them, one after another, and with each image the same truth grew clearer. Humanity had been forged in endless war. They had suffered more destruction than most species could imagine, and yet they survived every time. The aliens stared in horror. One officer whispered, "We thought they were fragile, but they are the strongest we have ever seen. Not because they are powerful, but because they never stop surviving." Then the images changed. The screens showed alien fleets from different species, different empires, attacking Earth across the centuries. Fleets no one in the council even remembered. All of them destroyed. All of them erased from history. That was the truth. Every invader who had ever dared to strike Earth was gone, forgotten. Earth left no survivors. The general sank into his chair, his pride shattered. His empire had not been the first to try, and they would not be the last. But all who came met the same fate. Finally, the voice returned, the deep, heavy voice that had shaken the fleet before. It filled every ship, every ear, every bone. "This world is not yours. It belongs to no one but those who endure it. Leave, or be erased." The general tried to speak, but no sound left his throat. His officers were paralyzed with fear. Even the soldiers bred for war wept silently. One last desperate plan was attempted. A warship, half broken but still armed, turned its cannons toward Earth. The captain shouted, "If we must die, we will take them with us." The cannons fired. Beams of light tore through the sky, heading straight for the planet's surface. But before they could strike, the Earth answered. The ground split open and fire erupted, not ordinary fire, but molten rivers rising like hands to catch the beams. The energy dissolved into the flames, vanishing as if swallowed whole. Then the ship that had fired was struck by a bolt of lightning so bright it blinded half the fleet. The ship cracked apart and fell, a burning star crashing into the sea. Silence followed. The general lowered his head. He understood now. They all did. Earth was not a prize to be taken. Earth was not a weak planet waiting for masters. It was a living graveyard, a guardian of memory, a weapon made from every war in history. And humanity, fragile, small, imperfect humanity, was the sharpest blade it carried. The survivors of the fleet had no choice. Their ships turned slowly, engines shaking, fleeing into the darkness of space. But even as they escaped, they knew the truth. They had not survived a battle. They had been spared for now, and Earth was waiting. On the council homeworld weeks later, the message finally arrived. The leaders gathered to watch the broken transmission, their eyes wide as they heard the last words of the once proud general. "Do not send more armies. Do not return. Earth is a trap. Earth is alive, and no one survives its wrath." The transmission ended. The chamber fell silent. No one dared to speak. And far away, alone in the void, Earth turned beneath its sun. Its forests swayed, its oceans roared, its deserts whispered. It was quiet again. But the quiet was not peace. The quiet was waiting. Waiting for the next empire foolish enough to challenge it. And when they came, Earth would remember and Earth would destroy them too.